Okay, welcome to the next video in this project tutorial series, and in this video we're going to be looking at something called rendering. Now, this is where we can make realistic images of our 3D designs, and we can alter them and get a real feel for what the product's going to look like in real life. It's not an instant process, but it is relatively quick. So here you can see I've got the passive speaker we designed in previous videos, and I'm going to take it into the rendering tool. So on the top left here, there's a change workspace, and when you click on design, you get a few other different options. Now we're going to be going over to render, and when this loads up, automatically you can see that the wood effect is a lot more realistic. It looks, the grain looks so much more realistic already. Now we're going to do a render straight away, and then we're going to see the reason why we've come into this at this stage. So there's a few settings you've got up here. You can do in canvas render, which renders it as you're looking at it. That can take a while. Instead, what I go for is the render option up here. Now when you press this render option up here, you get to choose your output style. I found that when we look at these, so in the web options, you're looking at up to 1.3 megapixels. That's actually quite a low resolution image. Mobile, you can get up to 3.1. Print is 8.4, and for videos, you back down to 2.1. So I go for print, that style there. So 300 ppi, it's a nice resolution size and it's a good quality. I then go over to custom. So it's kept everything I've got there on my image size, my aspect ratios, that's all set there. You can do cloud or local. If you press cloud render, because you've got an educational account, hopefully if you're one of my students, you'll be able to just press render and away it goes. That is processed in Autodesk servers and then will appear down here when it is done. Sometimes you get a notification, but you do have to wait for there to be space on the servers to do it. Or you can do it local on the machine you're using. Now if the computer you're using has got powerful enough hardware, you should be able to do it relatively quickly. You can go into advanced settings and adjust a few other things. But for what we're doing, leaving it on just final 75 is more than sufficient. If you want a transparent background for any other reason at a later stage, this is a handy thing to do. I always recommend making sure you've got it in PNG. So what I've got to do now is press render, and it says here local rendering has started. Something will appear down here very shortly. There we go. And once this is rendered, it'll tell me. Now this could take anything from a few seconds to a few minutes. If I hover over it, it still says remaining time 2 minutes. So it's saying I've got 2 minutes left. And now it's saying I have a few seconds left. So it varies depending on how much of the processing power it's using. It doesn't take long though. Keep checking back, or you can just wait for it. This is quicker in total time do it this way than it is to use the cloud, but with the cloud you've got the bonus that you can just leave it and go away. If you know that you're done for the day, you want to do a quick render, send it to the cloud, be there when you come back the next day.
A few moments later.
And as you can see, that is now done. That was not long at all. So I can click on that, I can have a look, and I've got my render there. Now this is where I might want to make some changes. So I want to make some changes to the lighting, the shadow, the position. It's quite far away, but that's okay. If I want to, I can download that and I can view it on my computer, but I'm going to leave it like that for now. And I can, if I want to, play around with some of my lighting settings. What we're doing here is actually not to do with lighting, it's to do with the appearance. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, just so my next one's a bit bigger. But I'm going to go on to appearance, and I am going to play around with it. I'm going to change the appearances there, because the biggest advantage of this software is that we can see what things are going to look like in 3D, in reality, without actually having to make them yet. So if I look at different woods, I can play around with different woods here. Now you might have to download your appearance. So I'm going to have a little bit of walnut in mind. Click on that to download the appearance. It's just a quick file, and I might decide I want walnut on the back. I click and drag. See, I've got a walnut panel on the back there. If I spin my screen around, You see that walnut effect, very, very dark. And I might decide, actually, I want my internal bits to be sort of a slightly lighter colour, but not as dark. I could go around and look at each individual one, different sides and angles, but instead I'm going to hide my front panel so I can see all my internals. I might decide to go with a semi-gloss mahogany. Still a dark wood, but not as dark as walnut. See there, it's got a chocolate brownie colour. It doesn't quite look realistic at this moment. You can still see it's very much computer generated. Okay. Once we do the render, it's going to look a lot more realistic. That's that all done. I'll make my front space visible now, and I'm going to choose a different one. I might go for an oak. I'll go for a glossy oak front. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to edit one of these. So my glossy oak, I'm going to right click, I'm going to edit that. I'm going to adjust my scale a bit. I think there. I've only gone down from 5.0, sorry, 5.0. I've only gone down from 50 to 47, but I think it makes the grain effect a lot more powerful. I might do that again with some of the others. So if I hide my front panel, I go on to my mahogany. If I adjust that by just 3 points, it makes it look a lot better. See there at 50, the grain looks very spaced out and pixelated because it's been stretched. 48 I think is really good. I think 48 for that one is much better. Have a look around the back at the walnut, and maybe I adjust that again down to 48. That's my personal preference. Again, you can see the grain really effectively there now. So I've got those bits and I've kept the pine on the outsides. What I might do is I might make the pine, glossy. So I might go for a glossy pine instead, because this is just a standard pine. So a glossy pine on those pieces. Again, I might adjust a couple of points. Go, and that's done. So now I've got this. I've really experimented with different materials there. I'm going to press render again. And local render, back to custom. Just because it's my preference to do that. And press render. And now sometimes a new one appears here, or it gets the symbol for a second one being rendered. Go, new render appearing there. So we'll give this a minute or so and it should be ready to go.
A few moments later.
And there we go. That is now done. So I can have a look at this one, and you can see there it looks a lot more realistic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to download this one. And I'll download this one as well. And I'll open those files up. So here is the original one first. You can see I can get quite close in, really looking at the detail. There is a limit to how far we can go, but it is a really good quality image. See where some of the light's shining in here and you've got shadow in here. It's good. Now let's look at the other one. See, I've got the range of colours in there and tones. This is a lot more realistic. I think because you've got types of wood being used, but you can see all the detail in the shadows aren't as pronounced. But what this does now, this gives me a good example of what it would look like in different colour schemes. So that's the best use for this tool. Exploring different colour options. And you haven't got to stick to woods. You can really have some fun with it by looking at different materials. Now, be realistic about what we can achieve. There's no point looking at liquids, for example, but we could look at paints and different paint styles. So you've got glossy paints, metallic paints. So let's look at a glossy paint. and you've got some bright colors in here. Let's go with a bright red, and we'll put a bright red on that back panel. Now, if we look at it, that is a nice bright red. It's going to come out looking a lot better in our render than it does there. I can also edit that, and I can change that color. So I might want to go in brighter red, here, hot red. You can change things like its roughness and its reflectance. We'll leave that alone for now. And you can go into the advanced settings, and you can go into how translucent it is. Is it giving off any light? We don't need to apply that right now. And that's that color. I might stick on a green the front here. And I might say, right, well, let's come away from the glossies. We can look at any of the others. So we have a carbon fiber one here. So let's have a look at a twill carbon fiber. Maybe have carbon fiber on the outsides. And then we've got our traditional timber on the inside. So let's try that. We'll do a render of that. We're nice and close. And press render and see how this comes out.
A few moments later.
Okay, and now that's that one done. And you can see a lot more of the light reflection off that because of the glossy finish. And we can download that and see what that's going to look like. We can download that now and see what it's going to look like. And here we go. So we've got light reflecting off the top here. The gloss effect looks really pronounced here. Even the reflection of this part here in that surface. And this is where rendering really comes into its own. You can see the effect of it. So if we compare it to the other ones we've done, we've got our mixed timbers there, and just our basic pine one. You can really see an evolution of the product, different options. These are great to present to customers so they can see what the options are for their product. As long as you do the render here, you don't even need to download them, because you can come back and these will always be here and you can download them at any point, access them whenever you want. So that's something that we can look at. What we're going to be doing with this going forward is every time we make changes to our design, we're going to come back and do a new rendering and explore different color options, different material options. Okay. If you're one of my students, what I'd like you to do is experiment at this stage and produce a range of different color and material options. Explore, see what the effects are like. Perhaps do it from different angles. See if you can play around with some of the more advanced features of the rendering. You go in and have a look. You can do all sorts in here, and there's lots of different things you can play around with. If you'd like to have a play with that sort of thing. One thing I'd say is only have one render active at a time. Don't try and do multiple renders at once. It can cause a problem. All right, good luck.